Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. We have another exciting episode for you. This time we're going to do a pre-draft review. We're going to get it as we're getting excited for the draft. We want to talk about some of the draft picks that the Patriots made over the last 5 years. So we're going to do a deep dive with our third man when he joins us on that. And as usual, we're going to review some interesting entertainment topics. As we slowly move out of COVID, more and more movies are coming down the pipeline that we're really excited about and want to talk with you. And we actually do have a taste test that Big Meat did have an opportunity to try. And you're going to want to listen to this one. This one is an exciting investment. Let's just put it that way. Let me welcome my partner, Big Meat. How's it going, Big Meat?
It's going really, really well. I'm glad you brought up that little story. And it's a nice, funny story to share with our podcast listeners, including one of our more loyal listeners, as he was part of that little story that we're about to share. So,
and I would call it. I know I said this to you. I feel like it was our first sponsorship to support the podcast. Someone
in a way, it is. You're right. It is
for us to try something, so we could actually review it on the podcast. So that was a big step from a loyal listener. We're big shout out to him for that. It's
definitely
it was appreciated. Now, so how should we break in the story? Tactfully, what's the best way to share this? How we got to taste what we did. What do you want to review, Big Meat? Should we just talk about what we're reviewing first?
Sure.
Or how we came to pass.
You know what? Jarvis isn't on yet, so maybe we I don't know if you've mentioned the story to him, so maybe we wait for the story so we could share it with Jarvis as well. I think he'd appreciate a story like that.
Okay.
So maybe let's just jump into whatever you want. You go right into entertainment, because other than that drink, which is something that we certainly want to talk about, maybe we could go back to that and talk a little bit about the some of the entertainment, because some of this entertainment that we talk about, Jarvis has no interest in, so we might as well just get through that first.
Okay, all right. Well, from the entertainment perspective, I think we can go through this pretty quickly. I think most people at this point, if you've been listening regularly to the podcast, our feelings about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, I haven't changed after this last episode. I think the way I felt the week before is the same I felt after this last episode that dropped on Friday. They're just not that memorable. They're fun to watch, but it's nothing that it's not compelling. I don't know how you feel. Nothing about the story is that compelling. I walk away thinking, it was all right, and just move on with my day.
Well, this one, in particular, it felt like as the season is winding down now, you thought, okay, more action, more action, more action. This one seemed like it had the least amount of action. I was just so bored towards the end of it, and there was some dialogue that I was somewhat interested in, but it's just not a way that you would expect to end the season. Like WandaVision, it picked up from the first couple episodes. Every episode they gave you more and more and more and more. And this series just didn't do it for me. I'm still trying to think about how I feel about it, because it's definitely a miss from for Marvel. I did like the part when they were talking. So Bucky and Steve were talking. Bucky and Sam were talking, and Bucky was telling Sam that he had talked to Steve Rogers before about giving the shield to Sam. So that clears up a little bit at the end of Avengers Endgame. Remember when old man Steve Rogers came back and he gave the shield to Sam, and it was like Bucky's standing over there, like he doesn't even say a word to him. It was just kind of weird. It was like Bucky has this long history with Steve Rogers, and they didn't even talk. Well, in the show, he actually reveals that he did talk to him at some point and was basically okay with him giving the shield to Sam. So I don't know if you caught that part.
Oh, I did.
When they were talking. So at least to me, it's like, okay, at least that kind of clears some things up that I didn't like how Endgame ended. And who knows, maybe it opens up for a flashback at some point in the future to see that. But that was the only part that I was like, okay, you know what, that actually answers a question for me. But other than that, it was a snooze fest.
It was. And I think for some weird reason, this one decided to be more of a woke episode. There was a lot of current relevant cultural stuff that was being discussed that I didn't know how it fit the narrative of what the story was. It felt like they were determined to squeeze it in one way or another. And I was kind of disappointed because I thought the whole premise was of Sam being the first Black Captain America, and it seemed like they were trying to paint this picture how he shouldn't be like a black. It'd be like a sellout if he became the first. It was very weird, like for an audience that of young kids and stuff, like what you're trying to promote. So I was kind of taken back and trying to figure out where are you going with this? Because isn't the whole point is eventually to make Sam Captain America, and you're making it out it would be like a bad thing for him to take the shield. So
there's definitely a political message behind this this series more than any other Marvel show or movie that they've done in the past. So
yeah, and it's disappointing because Disney's done a good job. I mean, we went from the Black Panther and that movie, and to all these other guys playing these important roles in the movie, and it seems like they were trying to make this insisting on a cultural point, which I was like, you know what, that's the same thing that I didn't like with Captain Marvel. There was like this feminist point of view on it that I didn't get. I didn't get why. Like there was so many other strong female characters in all their other movies. They're going down a road. You don't need to. I think you have the audience that likes it. There's no need to like put a disclaimer or political. It just makes no sense. I just don't get why they do this stuff.
This is Disney, though. This is Disney. This is just the way they operate. And before Disney acquired Marvel, I don't think any of those movies before then were really focused on any of that stuff. And I think Disney's trying to put a little bit of that messaging in there. So, hey, if they come through with a good show or a good movie, then they could do whatever they want. But in this case here, it's just not that great of a
That's
show.
my point. Is that they diverted so much time to cover that topic. It didn't add to the show. It really didn't. Yeah. It didn't even like it seemed like disjoint. Like they just had to add it in.
Yeah.
And you only have 6 episodes, and you took that much valuable time. It's just like him on the boat with his sister for a half an episode. It's like, where are we going with this? Like, is this necessary? And then they're back on the boat at the end. It's just like, can we get off the stupid boat? Like this. Like they spent this
sell
whole
the boat or keep the boat. Just move on. Let's go.
No one cares about your stupid boat.
Yeah. Just put on the wings and go shoot somebody. Like we don't care.
It's just very frustrating.
I know this last episode coming up, right? It's the big cliffhanger at the end of this one, right? He's got the case, and we all kind of know what's in the case, right? It's his new suit.
Yeah.
But something has to give during this coming last episode because they've got to go out with a bang, right? It's got to be full on action. It's got to be a great episode. What do they call the bad guys in this? The Flag Smashers. I'm sure Jarvis is going to appreciate that villain name, the Flag Smashers. They seem to have an army of these like super soldiers, and it can't just be Sam and Bucky against all of them, right? Plus, with the fake Captain America guy Walker now coming back in the mix, there's got to be some surprise, like maybe the Wakanda crew or like who are they, the Dora Milaje or whatever the hell they call them. They probably come in and help fight them. I'm just hoping it's just one big action-packed episode, and if that's the case, then at least I'll finish the season somewhat happy. So
I hope you're right because I like the characters. I like Sam and I like Bucky. I feel like they just didn't do him any justice in this. Whatever the writers did, it just wasn't well done. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. I hope you're right for episode 6. So that's coming. That the final episode's this Friday, but I don't know about you. This Friday, there's another movie dropping on HBO Max. I'm a little bit more excited. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to take a back seat to this one. We talked about it before. So if you're looking to make, what do you want to watch this weekend? Pencil it in. Mortal Kombat, the reboot, is coming out this Friday. I don't know when they drop officially on HBO Max, if it's midnight or whatever. But my Friday night plans will be, after my kids' practices, I will be sitting down and watching Mortal Kombat. So I'm very excited about that. I think the last one that we talked about came out in 1995. I think it was more kid-friendly. And based on what you're telling me, you got to watch a 7-minute clip that's available, Big Meat?
Yeah. So they just released, I think yesterday, you could watch the first 7 minutes of Mortal Kombat. And you can really see it anywhere. If you Google it, it's on YouTube. I mean, you can really watch it pretty much. I think you could actually watch it right on HBO Max. But Yeah, you can watch it anywhere. It's gory as hell.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I knew just watching the trailer, and I said, "Oh, this is going to be like a traditional Mortal Kombat movie, like you see in the video game." But then watching the first 7 minutes, I said, "Oh wow, they go like above and beyond already." So I'm excited for the movie as well. I hope they don't screw it up. I hope it's just a good movie as well. It's one thing to see all the your favorite characters and Scorpion and Sub Zero and all and it's like I just hope it's a good movie on top of the nostalgia effect that you'll get when you watch it.
Yeah, it
Hopefully we're
depends
not
on what.
bashing this by next week's podcast. Hopefully we're not bashing this movie
I hope not.
like
But
we've been bashing a lot of other things lately.
I'm not going in with high expectations. I think this is more of like a nostalgic watch. I want to see how the characters, how they portray them, and if it is more gory and violent, because the game is gory and violent.
Yeah,
I'm actually looking forward to that to
got to be
see it.
true to
Like,
it. Yeah,
yeah. So we'll see. Because again, the first one was kind of corny. I loved it. It's like one of those cheesy classic movies, but I liked it, even though it had a corny storyline.
hmm
This one, we'll see. I mean, I didn't see how much they spent on it, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they spent a good amount of money on it. If I'm not, I have to double check on that one. But anyways, it's something to look forward to. And I did want to ask you your thoughts. Did you get to watch the trailer for the new Marvel movie that's coming out?
I did.
Speaking of like
I
kung
did.
fu fighting type of
You don't you
movies,
don't want to try to pronounce it, do you?
well, it's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings that's
So
coming out.
so I did look into the pronunciation because I know if R3 ever listens to this, and I don't know if he's a fan of these shows or not, but he's gonna just jump all over. So I found the proper pronunciation. It's actually Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. Even though it's with an A, it sounds like it's spelled with a U, but it's actually Shang-Chi.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
That's good to know.
yes.
So I've
Yes, it's
never
just
heard
a
of
little
this.
I
I've
me
never
neither.
heard. This is like all new to me for the characters and everything. I didn't even know about the comic books about this or any. I'm going into this totally blind, but it's coming out. When was the official release date? Did they say? Do you remember? It's this fall, isn't it?
It's gonna be. Oh, is it that late? I thought maybe over the summer. I thought maybe like July,
September 3rd. September 3rd.
September 3rd. Okay,
Yeah.
still summer. Yeah.
So the end of
So
summer, technically, but yeah. Well, it's
yeah,
not the end of summer, but I guess I always think after August.
yeah, because they still got to release Black Widow, which is end of May, I think.
Yeah, which will
Um,
be on Disney Plus and the movie theaters. So you're gonna have to pay that $30 premium if you want it,
that's how they get you.
or you could just wait like they did with Mulan and uh, just wait a couple of months and it'll be free. It's up to you.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
really matter if you're not going to the
exactly.
movie theaters. So
That's right.
it's
That's
an
right.
interesting concept that they drop it so quickly. Uh, so I'm looking forward to this, and for those that are listening, take it as a good sign. Is that when they advertise Chung-Chi, and as we learn more about it, we'll talk about it in future episodes. But the nice thing about it is that they were talking about it in the movies. They didn't say Disney Plus and the movies. They were saying it will be released in the movies on September 3rd.
Ah,
So it does sound, and again, that was just a commercial, and maybe they'll change that as depending on what the situation with COVID. But it looks like there's a light at the tunnel, end of the tunnel for us. I
mhm.
think movies are going to start making their way back into the general public and in the movie theaters, which is really exciting because surprisingly, I miss going to the movies. I think that experience, I didn't realize how much I'd miss it when you're being told you can't do it. I was always selective when I went,
Mm,
but not being able to see anything in the movie theater has just been brutal. So I'm looking
that's true.
forward. So
That's
hopefully
true.
this is a sign by the late summer, a bunch of releases will start coming down, some quality movies. So we'll have some fun
Yeah,
there.
and I still stick to my rule, and I don't pay the money going to the theaters if it didn't cost something like $100 million to make. I'm not going. I need to go watch big blockbuster movies on the big screen and the surround sound and the whole experience.
Yeah, I
I
agree. I
I
agree.
ain't gonna
You
go
need the
watch.
kill count.
Yeah, exactly. If you tell me like the high, low, like the up or down, right? Is it higher than a certain kill count or lower? That's how I make my decisions based on it for whether I want to spend $14 to go to a movie.
Now, the good thing is about Mortal Kombat being released that it's only on HBO Max. You can't go to the movies, but you get it for free with HBO Max. Is that they only spent 50 million to make it, Big Meat, so it doesn't
Uh,
meet your quota. So that's why I was something about that. How much they spent on it caught my attention. So I'm glad you said
But
that.
50 million is pretty good. I exaggerate when I say 100 million, but 50 million is probably okay.
Now I don't
Probably
understand.
okay.
They're saying here it released on April 16th of 2021, and they've already made 10 million. But that doesn't make any sense because I thought it's dropping on Friday.
Did they
So
release it early internationally? Maybe I don't know.
it says USA release
I
date.
don't
It's
know.
kind of weird. I don't know. So take the internet
But
with what it's worth, but
but it's
that's
it's it's another theme or genre, I guess, for that Disney Marvel is releasing with this movie because it's a martial arts
oh
kung
no, this is
fu.
Mortal Kombat's 50 million. That's why I'm saying it's good that it's on HBO Max. You know, to spend the money.
Okay.
I don't know
Oh,
about
all right. Well,
Shang-Chi. I don't know what they spent on that movie. So hold on.
those
So
are usually. I feel like all the Marvel movies are all big budget flicks. But I did want to say with Shang-Chi is, and I mentioned this on the podcast a few weeks ago, where they always Marvel does things so differently with their series of movies. It's not the consistent tone throughout every single one of their movies. They have straight up sci-fi movies, but Doctor Strange is going to be basically a horror movie, straight up horror movie. Now this one's more of a karate, martial arts movie. So it's different. It's just different genres of the type of movies that they want to release, which is good because then you just kind of get bored after watching every Marvel movie. They all look the same. They all the humor is the same. So it's they're the only movie studio that I know has done this with a franchise. Everybody else just kind of keeps it pretty consistent all throughout. So it's good. It's interesting that they have now this type of movie coming out as well. So
yeah, and I
it'll be
love
good.
actually martial art movies. You know, I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah.
I like Jackie Chan movies back in the day in his prime, not when he was making the was it Owen Wilson? Is that the guy he did
Yeah.
some of those
Yeah.
movies? I
Yeah.
didn't care about those,
Yeah.
but I liked Jackie Chan in his prime, Bruce Lee in his prime, and
Yeah. You didn't like
I
Rush Hour?
I loved Rush Hour. I loved Rush Hour because that was a funny, but it wasn't like
He meant
true.
Shanghai Noon and
Yeah,
Shanghai Nights,
yeah.
Shanghai Noon. That's right.
That
That's right.
was,
which
but
was an entertaining movie. I'm interjecting. Hello, everybody. I'm here. Shanghai Noon was a quality, like, throwaway Sunday
It wasn't
afternoon
bad.
movie.
No, but
You
I
could
see
watch it
but
on
I,
a Sunday afternoon and be like, I'm bored. This is entertaining.
but I
it's
hear
not
what
just
Azar is saying. That's
it's
not
not the
Azar's
same.
point. What
Yeah,
Azar is saying is the actual like martial arts, karate, kung fu type movies where Jackie Chan is going. No, that's more of a comedy slash action type movie, right? It doesn't make it not a good movie. It's a good
which
movie. It's
in,
just not.
in fairness to Jarvis, a guy that loves The Pest, a classic comedy like The Pest, he likes
Listen,
Shanghai Noon.
the original Mortal Kombat
A
is
timeless classic.
the action version of the Pest. Okay.
That was. I'm not going to say anything. That was when it came out. I was excited just to watch it, and I know deep down it was not a well done movie, but
Oh no, I went back and watched it recently. It was hot garbage.
yeah, it's a
And
guilty pleasure. It's
it was just so bad. It was just so bad. But like,
Yeah.
you know what I about the Mortal Kombat thing, at least it was so bad because they tried to keep it to the video game script of, like, the Shaolin whatever, and I forget who was what, but, like,
Oh,
it was like that other realm that Earth
yeah.
had to fight, right? They kept it true to that, and the Mortal
Yeah, you have to go
Kombat
through
was
stages,
the
like just like in the
tournament,
game.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
It was so bad because they had to try to make that like a real action plot, whereas I think in, like, the subsequent ones, like the Mortal Kombat 2, they tried to also kind of play off that, where they had Shao Kahn as the bad guy instead of Goro and Shang Tsung, because that was the next video game. And then after that, it went off the rails. I think they made, like, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, a bunch of other ones after that, and I
Did
didn't
they
even
really?
bother.
I know about
There were,
Annihilation. I didn't know there was more. Oh, that's
there was
interesting.
so there was one, there was two, and then there was Annihilation, and I don't know if there were
No,
any
I
after
thought
that. But
Annihilation was two. I thought there was only two of them as well. I thought
was it?
Annihilation was the second one.
I thought there were a couple after that. I
Well,
don't know. Again, I'm not trying to argue whether they were or weren't, but they tried the
Maybe.
second one. I watched the second one. It was okay, but the trailer to this Mortal Kombat, did I get it right? It's Sub-Zero versus Scorpion is the trailer.
I don't know if that's the trailer, but if you watch the first, so I don't know if you jumped on when I said the first 7 minutes.
Where did you find it, Big
of
Meat? You didn't say where you found it, so people can look for it when they listen to this.
the first 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I don't remember where I saw it, but I know you could Google it, and it's on YouTube. You can find it. Just Google first 7 minutes of Mortal Kombat, and you'll find a whole bunch of links with it's everywhere. It's
So
everywhere.
it's not on an HBO Max.
I'm going to ask a question, and spoiler alert, mute now if you don't want to see it. But are you referring to the trailer where the wife and kid get frozen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not a trailer. That's the actual first 7 minutes of the movie. They released the first 7 minutes. As like a little teaser,
scene.
right? Yeah.
But so it's titled Mortal Kombat Scorpion vs. Sub-Zero.
Yeah, because that's
so. My question is, well, so is this going to be like a subplot movie where the whole movie is about just the feud between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and not so much the tournament? Like it's a way to get away from the video game script? Because if that's the case, then you I don't know, were there books about Mortal Kombat? Who's going to call these people on canon or not? I have no idea how Sub-Zero.
Oh, I think there's a lot of versions of the Mortal Kombat video game where there's endless amount of characters and storylines.
The movie was based on the original movie was based on the original video game, and then the second video game and the second movie were kind of hand in hand, or the third video game and the second movie. But this, I don't know how Sub-Zero became crazy blue ninja with ice, and Scorpion became crazy yellow ninja with the skull mask, but in this, it looks like Scorpion looks like he starts off as a normal guy, and then by the end he's Mr. Get Over Here with all that stuff. By the way, they should always go, whoever did the voiceover for the first video game, they should just make that the Get Over Here voice for anything, because it's just never the same.
Is this like Optimus Prime bringing the guy back who did the Optimus Prime voice? Keep bringing him back, some old guy that used to do it 40 years ago.
But
he still sounds the same though.
Don't knock it. Don't knock that.
It's got to be the same, because if it's not the same, you just did you get to the end of the 7 minutes?
Oh yeah.
The very last scene is him throwing that thing and saying "Get over here," but it's he's got a little whiny bitch voice. He's not like that. He just doesn't have the video game voice.
Gotta mature.
Maybe he hasn't fully become the Scorpion yet. Maybe that's why. So it's you gotta wait. So this was my point earlier. It's you watch those 7 minutes and you get excited, but to your point, I don't know if there's a subplot. Is the movie about them? So I'm curious to find that out, and I hope that they don't go down a road where the movie just is awful, where the story and the action
looked incredible. I mean, the
action was great. There's no complaint there.
And you know that whoever it's screwed up, because I mean, if you go watch those 7 minutes, spoiler alert number 2, that little infant clearly has a role in this. Who's the infant? I don't know, but he freezes the wife and the daughter to get the infant. We don't know if he got the infant. And man, I was like,
Azar doesn't even need to see the first 7 minutes.
I know.
Now. He just told him the whole thing.
I said spoiler alert.
Azar's like, all that's happened in the 7 minutes.
I want to watch it now.
You holy crap! He froze the wife, and I didn't expect that. I'm sitting there holding my 10-month-old as I'm watching Sub-Zero tear this family apart, and I was like, "Oh, this is
it's gory, right? It's gory as hell. I like it. I like it. I like that they didn't hold back and
no, they didn't hold back, and
PG I can only, it up.
But if they go, so this is the thing. It was really tacky. What made the first movie really tacky is they tried to work in the finishers, and they when he took the mask off to try to flame Johnny Cage in the first one, and he left the signature. You know how he leaves the signature? Oh, that was so tacky. And
I'm not so sure this movie is not going to do that. I'm not so sure.
So that's the thing. If you're going to work in
I don't know. It's not kid friendly, John. It might not. I think it's just going to be one of those graphic finishes. You know what I mean?
Is Sub-Zero going to grab somebody by the neck and pop out his spine or whatever? Yeah. They had some sick finishers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw a few things on the trailer, not the 7 minutes, the actual trailer, that I said I don't know. I think they might be going down that road. I'm just saying what I've seen. Just if that's what your expectation is,
as long as there's not a narrator voice that chimes in the middle of a fight scene, finish him. All right, then we get a little tacky here.
Well, wait and see. Now, Jarvis, whose house are you going to crash to watch Mortal Kombat. You seem excited now. You seem very
I am
excited.
a little excited. I am a little
Yeah,
excited.
how are you gonna watch this, Jared? That's what
I
wanna
have
know.
I have an HBO Max in.
All right, good.
Oh, okay.
Good. So we can
I
talk
should
about it.
I should be able to deal. I should be able to get on with it.
All right. So
Good.
I guess this is a good time to jump in and let people know if you're listening. So next week we won't be reviewing movies and things like that. So we're gonna save the Mortal Kombat review. So if you're wondering what were our thoughts on it, and then you tune in next week, you're like, oh, I thought they were gonna talk. Ain't happening, because next week is dedicated to the draft. So just to get you excited, next week is an entirely draft focused episode. So get ready for a long and detailed analysis by Big Meat and Jarvis to let us know their predictions on what's going to happen. Hopefully, I think if we time it right, the day before the draft is our goal.
Probably the best time of the year.
Day
for
before the
NFL.
first round, Azar. Day before
the first round. But we wanted to make sure it's posted so you can listen to it before the first pick.
That's right.
That's our goal, is to make sure it's posted.
Absolutely. Maybe we could swing some things and maybe do it a couple nights before to allow some people to.
We'll have to talk. We'll have to talk about that.
We'll see.
Good. So just to wrap up on the whole martial arts themes, because you did mention it, we talked about it. Mulan is available now for free on Disney.
That's where you're going with this?
No. I actually watched it because I was so curious. Was it going to be like all the other remakes tried to follow a lot of the cartoon? This one actually went with a totally different story. And
I get mad when that happens, Azar. I get mad when that happens. If the cartoon was good, don't screw it up.
No, I gotta say, I'm just saying that it actually, the action scenes and some of the fighting for a kids martial arts movie wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good. It was actually it was better done than I thought, because I didn't really like any of the live action movies that they've done.
I watched it too, Azar. I thought it was good. I thought it was better than I expected. I thought I was going to be just bored through the whole thing. And
do you know what was terrible? If we're going to go on this rant for a moment, Disney's newest movie, Raya, that Green Dragon movie.
I did not see it.
Horrendous. What a snoozer. What a snoozer. For the creators of Frozen and Moana, okay? The writers of Frozen and Moana.
And we know you love Moana because the Rock.
I was going to say, The Rock's in it.
Listen, you guys had kids. Well, I don't know if you guys did, but like I have like my wife's nieces and nephews were all like prime age for Frozen. Man, that song played like it got to the point where it would get stuck in your head. Like that was a little catchy there, that Let It Go thing for a year. You can't, right? And okay, whatever. A good Disney movie has to have a good catchy song, or a couple of them. Moana had a couple of them. They were catchy. Frozen had a catchy song. It is what it is.
It's all about the music.
It is, and that's why I get mad when the live action ones don't have them. Like, at least play me the songs. At least sit there and I can be like, all right.
Well, this was my.
No. Let me finish because I got to rant on this. Not one fucking song. Not one song. Not even like Frozen 2 came out a year or so ago, and the song was so terrible in that movie that I don't want to watch the rest of it. I have not yet seen Frozen 2 because the song from it was so bad. But this movie, zero. Like, not one Disney song in the movie.
That's amazing.
What a strikeout. What a strikeout it was. And it was a boring plot line. Oh, it was terrible. Don't watch it.
Was it? It wasn't like a woke cartoon or anything like crazy.
It might have been. I honestly zoned out at how bad it was from like large pockets of the movie.
Yeah.
It was like, I couldn't even get into it. It was bad. It was bad. It was just genuinely bad. Yeah, I'm sure there was woke things in it that I was like probably just dulled. It was like, when you get a migraine that's like a dull migraine and you just kind of like black out for a little while because it's just this numbing like pain. You're like, man, I just don't remember the last hour of my life because I've just zoned out from this atrocious thing in front of me. It was bad. It was so bad.
I wasn't going to pay the $30 to rent it. I don't know if it's available yet for free. Is it finally?
Don't. I don't know. I paid the $35.
That hurts.
35.
Well, so here's the justification. It was a birthday party with my brother-in-law's and his wife and kids, and my other brother-in-law's kids were all over. So instead of like everybody paying $20 to go to a movie theater, which we can't go to because of COVID, $35 got everybody to watch the movie. But it was so bad, nobody watched it. None of the kids could get into it.
That's a
Nothing.
shame.
No adult could get into it. It was awful.
I haven't heard anything about it. It was
Just because there's nothing to say. I just said it all. There's
So
nothing
Jarvis
to say
just
about it.
likes the he wants a Disney movie to have Disney music. That's it. Can he just have some Disney music?
Yeah,
in his,
well, it's got to
in
be
his
better
movies?
than that. But if it doesn't have a good song, it's to me like, come on, like the
the
Lion
soundtrack,
King,
baby. It's all about the sound.
Yeah,
That's what
so
made
I had
Pocahontas
this-
had a soundtrack. The Lion King, even Snow White had a freaking soundtrack. If you don't say, whatever that the what do you call the dwarfs? The seven dwarfs even sang a catchy song.
He's the guy that doesn't watch Lord of the Rings. You can tell he doesn't even know what a
Come on.
dwarf.
At least he didn't call them like the
Munchkins?
the White Walkers or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, where he just
Oh, listen, you covered that with your what did you just say? Like the poster bangers or
The
something?
the Flag Smashers. Get it right.
I
Get
was
it
so
right,
close.
Jarvis. So
Poster banger, flag smash. I was right there.
So to your point, this was my this was one of my pet peeves about Wonder Woman 1984, to bring that mess of a movie back up again. Other than the fact that it was a horrible movie, it was in the 80s, right? A movie that was based in the 80s, and not one 80s song was in that movie. That was
what a
so
miss.
very similar to you, right? It's like why would you miss out on that opportunity to have one 80s song in there, just to have that catchy, 80s song? It just didn't make any sense to me. So I think it's very similar to your angst with the Disney music there. But now that we're still on this topic, Azar, I know you want to move on to the to something a little bit more appealing, but I did want to just say I got a chance to finally watch Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong. We could never know exactly what the actual name of the movie.
You actually finished it? Is that
I
more
actually
appropriate to
finished
say?
it. I fell asleep the first hour watching, and then it was like several nights went by, and I said, I just gotta get back to finish it. And I ended up finishing it. Wow, what an awful piece of crap. Seriously, if you want to waste an hour, hour and 50 minutes of your time, and now you're just curious at this point, go ahead and waste your time and watch it. Or you can just watch the last 15 minutes. That's all you got to do. Just watch the last 15 minutes when Kong and Godzilla are battling, and that's pretty much it. The plot is stupid. It doesn't make any sense other than waiting for those two to just fight each other. And that's it. That's all. That was the entire movie.
Does either animal die?
No.
I can't reveal the ending on this.
Something does die.
Yes.
But but that's a cash cow. You're not killing King Kong, and you're not killing Godzilla.
No.
If that's a spoiler to you, then you're nuts, because that's a cash cow. They're not going to kill the moneymaker.
No, and they're never gonna say one is stronger than the other. It's like the Batman versus Superman thing. It's kind of the same thing there. But
should have just put a cape and a freaking Batman hood on King Kong.
Right. Yeah, but I gotta say, that actress, the girl from Stranger Things, I like her in Stranger Things. I think she's a good actress, but she was so cringy in this movie. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but she was, just watch back some of her scenes, and she was over dramatic. Everything was over the top. She tries to be funny, and she wasn't that funny. She was not good in this movie at all. It seemed like she didn't even try to even be a good actress.
So let me clarify something there. She's not a good actress. One, even in Stranger Things, do you notice what her role is? She, even like in the first, when the seasons were really good, she didn't really talk.
She doesn't talk. It's your thing about.
So I think they really knew that she can't really act. Like, she didn't really make the movie. It was the other kids around her that made it interesting. And again, and the flashback with the 80s music and all that fun stuff. Right. But it wasn't her. Like, she became a star because she's like the main lead character. But I don't even think it's like her dad, who's the cop. I forget the guy's name. I like him as an actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good. He's good. Yeah. But you're right. No, she's not. I don't remember her being like but I liked her character anyway. I liked her playing that.
She fit that role perfectly. She did a good job in that role.
Yeah.
but it didn't really need her to kind of act. It was just like,
yeah. She was like this girl that she seemed like she was fearless, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. It just did go with it. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, why? She's just awful. And then that guy, the janitor guy or whatever he was, the guy that was actually doing the podcast right at the beginning of the movie, that guy was just obnoxious. And it was like, is this guy supposed to be comedy relief? Because he's not funny. It just the whole movie was terrible, awful. Not on the same level of Wonder Woman 84, but.
Nothing's
Pretty
at
bad.
that level. I would rather sit through King Kong and Godzilla than sit through Wonder Woman 84 again. That is just, I can't watch her do her lasso dance in the mall ever again.
Preach.
Those are all over. So what was the last topic we wanted to cover? That was it, right? For entertainment, I think.
That was it.
Covered.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. So before we move on to sports, because that's going to take the rest of the bulk of the time, because I'm sure Jarvis is going to have a lot to unload off his chest when it comes to this. And it's going to give big meat. Now, I didn't put it in the preview, but really this what it comes down to is this is really going to test big meat on his love for Belichick. In Belichick we trust. Because Jarvis is going to show you some information that's going to that could rattle that love and faith. So I'm just going to say that.
I'm ready for it for when that time comes.
But before we do that, I want to talk about what we started the podcast, that Big Meat had an opportunity to sample a whiskey that was a very premium whiskey. Something that I think is a little bit, probably the most expensive thing that the bottle is more expensive than a Johnny Walker Blue. So I think for me, it was probably the most expensive thing. I didn't sample it. Big Meat had an opportunity to taste it. So he's going to share his thoughts on it. But the backstory behind it is that we were out at a dinner, a birthday party dinner for my wife, and one of the guests there wanted to try a premium whiskey. Now, as a rookie mistake, when you go to a nice restaurant, you got to be careful, because when you tell the people, "I want your best whiskey on the shelf," they will find you the best whiskey, and it will rock your imagination what it could possibly cost, right? Because I don't even know what to brace. It's not like when you go and say, I always thought when you go to a bar, I know some cognacs are extremely expensive. Like they can be really expensive. They're served in crystal bottles, all that nonsense. I didn't know how much a whiskey could go for, especially in a local Southern New Hampshire restaurant. Like how expensive could it possibly be? Well, our guest did find out. It was no cheap venture. So let me tell you the whiskey. So his sacrifice, though, was a benefit to the podcast. So we thank him for that sacrifice. It was kind of a rookie mistake, but you know what? He took it like a man. He enjoyed it. He loved it. He said it was well worth it because we had a lot of laughs, and Big Meat got to taste it and can talk about it on the podcast now. But so the whiskey of choice, and Meat and I are debating. It's because of our fear of R3. Is, how do you pronounce this name? It's a Japanese whiskey called Mayo. Meat calls it Mayo, like some kind of white redneck thing, but
I've heard it pronounced both ways. I swear. Look it up.
How many
I've Googled
Japanese
it. I've
people
done my
say, "Give me a
research.
bottle of Mayo"? But I don't Mayo.
Mayo sounds more Japanese. I think that's more accurate.
So it's Mayo single grain whiskey, 17 year. It's a 17-year. I believe. What did I say? It was a single grain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this whiskey on the retail market, it's just to let you guys know if you're ever interested in trying a Japanese whiskey. And Jarvis, you tried some exotic stuff. Have you ever had anything Japanese?
Sake is all.
Okay. Now I'm under the impression I know Japanese people in Japan. I know they're big whiskey drinkers, but I always thought they imported a lot of their whiskey. Like they like the bourbons and stuff like that. Am I wrong for thinking that? I always thought that's what I always heard, is that Japanese do like whiskeys, but I always thought they were always the imported. I didn't realize the Japanese made their own whiskeys, but they must do one. So, but it's priced about in the U.S. about $300 a bottle. So it's no cheap investment. That's what we've seen it anywhere from $275.
Yeah. Well, they have different aged whiskeys too, Azar. So like the one that I tried, took a little sip of it. Well, like you said, it was aged 17 years. I've seen one that was aged 15 years, and I think there's one that's 23 years. So maybe the 23 years one is on the higher price because I also looked into the bottle as well, and for 17 years, age 17 years, and it was roughly like 160, 170. So, maybe some places sell it for as high as 300 if it's harder to find or whatever. But so anyway, it could range between 160 and $300 for a bottle of this Japanese whiskey.
And it's made from rice. Just to let you guys know,
Yes.
it's made from rice. And I did some little digging on it, and there was an actual article written on this whiskey. And they do, and the way they quoted it is finding a whiskey is like finding a unicorn in Japan. So they're not really big on producing, but this one, they were trying to make the case why you need to try it. So Forbes magazine in April of last year wrote up an article just on this whiskey. So it's amazing we missed it. But hey, we're a podcast. We want to teach you guys about different things. Here's the opportunity. So Big Meat, how did a rice whiskey taste to you?
It was delicious, but it was such a small sip. I tried to savor the flavor, and I gotta say, it was delicious. It was delicious. It was a great tasting whiskey.
Savor?
Savor. Sorry, I misspoke. Savor the whiskey.
Hallelujah.
Well, the guy who ordered it I considered my savior for letting me have a sip of this little glass of
now
whiskey.
Why didn't you order a glass for yourself, Big Meat, after you tasted it? Why don't you tell us what prevented you from getting your own glass?
Look, I commend this guest that ordered this, right? I kind of like that. I think Jarvis could appreciate this too, because this is something Jarvis would do at a restaurant, right? It's like, give me your whiskey, give me your top shelf, high-end whiskey, the most expensive whiskey you got. And of course, Aze and I look at each other like, this might not be the restaurant you want to ask for that kind of whiskey. So the guy brings over the bottle, and it's like he puts it over his arm like a bottle of wine. Like, would you like to try this? Yeah. And you could tell right away we're like, ooh, that looks expensive. So we didn't even I don't remember. I think Aza, you tried to ask him, but you couldn't hear him. It was kind of loud in the restaurant, and so we walked away. And all you got was it's aged 17 years, so it's going to be pretty expensive. The drink comes over, and he got it neat. Right, and it was like very, very little. It wasn't that much in the glass.
Exact 2-ounce pour. It was to the millimeter.
Yes. And he passes it around, and everyone just kind of smells it, and it comes to me, and of course, being the whiskey lover that I am, I'm like, "Do you mind if I take a sip?" It's sure, I take a sip.
Putting COVID to the side. What the hell? Let's share glass.
Little sip, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I took a little sip, just a little taste. Gave it back to him. I said, "Oh, that was pretty good." So I finished whatever I was drinking, and the waiter came over.
You ordered one too?
And I said, I'm thinking about ordering one of these things. I go, but I said, waiter, let me just ask you, how much is this glass? How much does this cost? What he just ordered? And what he said to me, he goes, "Oh, that goes for about $78 or $80, depending on if you want it neat or not."
Oh,
I go,
God.
I'm good. I think I'll pass. So the whole rest of the night, we're just teasing this guy. But like I said, it's something he'll remember now for forever. I mean, I think he's learned his lesson not to order a drink like that in a restaurant like that again. But I felt so guilty because it was $80. I took a sip. I felt like I owed him like $20 because I took a sip of that whiskey. So it was delicious. I don't have a specific flavor. I know everything I've read online. It has a little vanilla, citrus. I guess I've also read like brown butter type taste to it. I don't know if I tasted any of that part of it. I just remember it was smooth. It was really smooth. So it was just one of those moments, right? It's like it's one of those moments in your life where at the time you don't think about it, but now looking back, you say, "Wow, I'm never going to order a drink like that again, like that expensive." You know what I mean? I'm never going to do that again. So you look back, that was like a history in the making right there. That was like a moment. That's like going to see Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. You're there and you're like, "All right, this is the match." And now you look back, you're like, "Wow, I was actually there." Like that was a bigger moment. That's how I felt when I took that sip of that Japanese whiskey. I felt like I was making history when I drank that. So it was good. It was a funny story, and I certainly never in my life will I ever order an $80 thing. But again,
Well,
I commend him for doing it. I'm happy
Yeah.
that he did it.
yeah,
Good for
and
him. You got to live a little sometimes.
and it made the dinner interesting because we spent most of the time trying to guess what it was going to go for. We were all way off. But, it's funny because I wonder if Jarvis will see this as a challenge. So when we're on our trip, will he go out and try to outshine us and outshine that moment from our friend?
That is kind of a Jarvis move. And by the way, all the listeners out there, it wasn't Jarvis. This person was not Jarvis.
No, it was not.
I know it sounds like something he would do, but no, it was not him.
Yes, we know his wife listens. It was not Jarvis. He did not go and blow $80 on a shot. But you know what? It was. You're right. And it's funny because I thought about it. If you buy a bottle of this whiskey, even though it's $300, how many people would actually have a high-end Japanese whiskey to offer someone in their home? Everybody's used to, Scotch or bourbons or whatever. But to say, hey, you want to try something off totally different, that's pretty good. I thought about that. It might be something to kind of add to your whiskey collection. Just something that's just so exotic, maybe for the holidays when you have family over, and just say, hey.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably spend that money on the bottle.
My exotic drink now is the Sam Adams Utopias bottle that I'm still
That's right.
Oh yeah, that's a big one too. That's very expensive. But it's funny when he ordered this, I could just picture everybody in the restaurant, right? The waiter going in the back of the kitchen and being like, "There's a guy that just ordered a glass of this Mayo whiskey. Can you believe it?" Everyone's like, "What? Like what? Like we only serve that to like who is it? Who is this guy?" They all wanted to come on and see who it was.
Who's this celebrity in Southern New Hampshire? The first thing they got to do is just wipe the dust off it because it's probably not ordered that often. Like, get the dust off. Make it look good.
That's what I was going to say. When they bring a bottle over and they go, and a little poof comes off it, that nobody's been dumb enough to go in and order that before.
Yeah, but supposedly people order it as shots. So some high rollers do go in there and do shots of that stuff.
Did you declare the establishment that this occurred at yet?
We're gonna leave them off because it's not. Okay. I don't want them to be, because they pride themselves in trying to be a more higher end restaurant. So it's not like it's unusual to pay that kind of money for an expensive liqueur, or whiskey. But I don't want it to come off like, oh my God, look, that place is gouging people.
I don't think that's the case at all. I think that I'm surprised that they brought you over see, the thing for me is not the price, it's that it was Japanese. Yeah. They couldn't find a Scotch.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Something single malt made on this hemisphere.
I think he went in the back and was just asking around, like, what's the most expensive thing we have?
Or he was like,
somebody just brought it out. I was like, here.
He probably had this shitty bottle. It was like, these assholes just said, bring me something off the shelf.
That is true. I bet you if we go back in there and ask again,
mop water,
just like bring us your best whiskey, it's going to be something completely different.
Yeah.
But recreate the scenario. I bet you get something totally different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he didn't specifically say give me your best Scotch, or he didn't say give me your best bourbon. So
he said give me your best whiskey, which
it's very vague, right?
To Japan, that's very vague.
Yeah, and if someone says that to you, why not offer a Japanese? I'm sure no one's ever tried it.
I had lunch today at the Del Frisco's Double Eagle in Seaport, and I walked in and just beaming off the shelf, there was a row of Macallan perfectly like chronologically ordered, like 21, 17, 15, 12, and they were all perfectly full. It was screaming my name.
Oh, they're ready to go.
They looked so delicious. Now, see, if you had dropped down like a Macallan plus 20 year, I mean, I understand you're paying no less than $75 for a drink of that. No,
I do enjoy my Macallan. I do have what is it, a 12-year?
Yeah, it's got to be 12's perfect, right? Because if it goes beyond 12 for me, it gets like real like oak woody and like that. It really picks up some of that like the earthen flavors.
You get the barrel. You're getting the barrel.
But if it's under 12 years, like 10 or less, it still tastes like alcohol, like the burning alcohol. Right in the middle, though. 12 years for me is where it's at.
Now, when we did some research, I'm almost curious now. I want to try Whistle Pig.
I've had Whistle Pig. It's a rye, so it's a little different, but is it
smooth?
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it's
like
also
it.
$110 a bottle.
So they have a bottle that was over $300 called Boss Hog, Whistle Pig Boss
Yeah,
Hog.
it
And I'm
it's
curious,
harsh.
It's
It's
never
gonna
seen it.
burn.
It's
Does it?
harsh. Yeah, it burns.
Yeah,
They do sell nips
but
of
it's
it
but
up
it's
in
got a flavor too. So like, it's not like when you drink Jack Daniels, you're just like, like you're swallowing a like a lit match. Just everything burns the whole way down. And I don't really like the flavor of Jack Daniels. Just makes me want to vomit.
Except
Whistle.
Jack Daniel's vanilla.
Well, no. We're not talking about vanilla. Vanilla anything is just accelerated to like the front of the line of deliciousness.
All right. I know
Jim
Big
Beam,
Meat loves
too.
that.
Jim
Jim Beam
vanilla.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Jim Beam vanilla. I'm not Jack Daniels.
Straight old number 8, or number 7, whatever's on the bottle.
Oh, I don't mind that. I don't mind
No,
I was
that.
gonna
I can't do
say
it.
like Meat's little like
I don't
raising an
know.
eyebrow. when
I
you
don't
say that.
know. It's
No,
just
it's not good. It's not good.
very surprising.
good.
man. It's very surprising.
Oh, I can't do it. Straight like blended whiskey like that. Ugh.
Yeah.
But
You gotta have it
if
on the rocks.
you can't. I can't. I don't like it.
That's it. He doesn't like it.
That's it. So,
Okay.
but like Whistle Pig, so it has a little bit of that. But if you put Whistle Pig on the rocks, it mitigates a lot of that burn and like leaves some of that rye flavor. Just a little different than whiskey, but
Yeah, if you want to try it, Azar, just go up and grab a $6 bottle of nip, $6 bottle nip up in Nashua at the
New Hampshire liquor stores have them.
yes.
Okay.
The right there, right next to Home Depot there up in Nashua. So
Is Whistle Pig a sipping bourbon or is it meant
no,
to
it's
be
a rye. It's a rye. It's a
rye. I'm
sipping
sorry.
rye.
Sipping rye.
Sipping rye.
Okay.
yeah,
Any bottle that's over $40 is meant to be a sipping version of whatever that is.
No,
If
that's
it's
what I mean. Like it seems kind of expensive, but if it doesn't taste that good, it seems kind of.
But like there are some people that like Jack Daniels hot, warm, and straight out of the bottle.
Just seems kind of expensive. I don't know if it's a bottle. That's a good idea. I might just do the nip and just see if it's worth. But the Boss Hog intrigued me. I'm like, gee, I wonder what this stuff really tastes like. Is it smooth?
Well, have you ever had rye before? Any rye whatsoever?
maybe Bullet Rye.
I think Bullet. I think I have a Bullet rye.
And Bullet's good.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well,
like to spend the kind of
Bullet's
money for that Boss Hog one just intrigued me. I'm like, it's got to be
Bullet's good.
smooth.
Bullet's good, but Bullet you can mix into. And when I say mix, there's a difference between making a Manhattan versus like a Jack and Coke.
Oh yeah. That's totally true. Like anytime you put in like ginger ale or anything, it's just you're negating. That's why I always knock Big Meat with Jameson. Jameson is not easy to drink, and you have to dump like ginger ale in it because it's just
gross.
not it. Yeah, it's just. So to me, it's like, well, if you need a whole half a can of ginger ale just to drink it, it's not that good. It's just like,
It's a little bit of ginger ale mixed in with it. I actually haven't had a Jameson and ginger in a long time. I just been kind of on a
I thought of that 'cause
separate kick.
my cousin ordered one today. We were out together, and I was like, "What can I get you?" And she, and she's a young woman, and legal to drink. But she's a young woman, and I know she drinks. I'm just thinking she's gonna tell me like a vodka and something, or something simple. Jameson and ginger. I'm like, Jameson and ginger. Like, what the hell? Like, what do you? She goes, I do drink. Like, I'm like, okay, all right, whatever you want. But I was just kind of surprised from the order.
It's not
harsh.
it's not as bad as you guys think. Actually, a good Irish whiskey is I think I might be pronouncing this correctly. Tullamore. guys ever had that? Tullamore.
What is wrong with you people?
That's why I said
phonics class. Tullamore.
Yeah, we talked about that in the past. That was something we were reviewing.
Tullamore.
Tullamore.
That's even better than Dewar's.
Yeah, people like Dewar's. But all right, we're going on a tangent. We can go on this liquor. So putting that again, like I said earlier, I want to thank our guest that joined us for dinner the other night for buying that whiskey. It was a great story. Gave Big Meat an opportunity to try something that probably he wouldn't do for himself, and gave us something to talk about on the podcast. And it did intrigue me. Like maybe I want to try it one day. If I'm feeling like a high roller, I'll come in and order myself a glass. But
you'll order it and ask for two empty glasses.
Yes, we got to split it. But that's something we would do. you split it into 2 1-ounce glasses, and but
two straws.
I would say because he is a fan of the podcast, it was an indirect sponsorship. He spent some money. It benefited the podcast. So I'm calling it an indirect
Yeah,
sponsorship. So thank you to him. So,
Exactly. Maybe we can even write it off somehow.
yeah. Well, I have his receipt, so I can help him out there. I can get it reimbursed for him. All right. So let's get to the fun part where I think this might give Big Meat some sleepless nights, Jarvis. Like, can we rattle his faith? Like here.
Quite
So
possible.
the draft is coming up. Obviously, being in New England, our focus is on what the Patriots are going to do. Our man Bill Belichick has a long history of disappointing us on the draft days. Most recent history. I know he's had some success here and there, but his most recent history, it's always disappointing. He's never aggressive. He's always trading backwards. He's not going forward to aggressively get players. But this year, the way they're spending money, there's this hope that this year might be different, that they will be aggressive. But the question is, and this is what we're going to challenge today before the big draft episode. Do you trust Bill Belichick's decision-making, even if he moved up in the draft? Will he make the right choice? If he stayed at 15 and did nothing, will he make the right choice? And based on what Jarvis has shared, and we've hinted to this in the past, Belichick does not have a good track record as a GM making good choices. So I'm going to let Big Meat start with defending Belichick with these decisions. And then that way Jarvis can rebuttal him with his...
So we're not going back 10 years. We're not going...
Recent history.
More recent.
I think we said from 2015 on. That's 5 drafts. 5 completed drafts.
Because that puts them in the situation we're in right now, right? Because a lot of people are arguing, why do they have to be so aggressive? Were they so bad last year? A lot of it is their drafting has put us in this position. So that's why the most recent memory, I think, is more viable. If we go back, we'll just get in the weeds. That'll be just like a 2-hour conversation.
We'll go 5 years. Well, before I begin, I don't know where all this vitriol is with me, because I'm actually somewhat in agreement with you guys. I understand there's been some drafts that have been weak. However, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here, and just for the sake of this podcast, so we could have a discussion. Let's go back to 2015, right? Because I do think there are some cases here where Belichick was, in a situation where he couldn't really succeed in the draft based on where he was picking, because he was always in the Super Bowl every year. He was always picking last in the draft. Still not an excuse to whiff on every single one of these picks, but you go back to 2015. You want to go back 5 years? 2015 was actually a really strong draft for Belichick. He drafted 2015. You don't think 2015 was a strong draft for him?
2 players.
He's already laughing.
Two players. 2015. 2 players.
Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jarvis, he took him 32nd. He was basically a second-round pick. And he played 89 games. He had a somewhat long career.
Not one game did you ever say Malcolm Brown is the next Vincent Wilfork. He was just
He was the 32nd pick.
He was a first-round pick. And I have a list of players in 2015. Jordan Richards was their second-round pick. By the way, did you know they passed on Landon Collins, the best safety in the draft that year? Hey, did you know they passed on Tyler Lockett as well? Tyler Lockett could have been running around in a Patriots uniform. Do you know what round he went? The 3rd round.
Look, based on people who
you just told me Malcolm Brown.
Can you let me finish my point? And then now you're jumping all over it. God, Asa, you're right. He is going to give you a cardiac arrest.
Okay, go ahead. Go back to 2015.
I'm just going by the last 5 years. That's what you wanted me to do.
And you started with a shitty year. Called it a good year.
It is a good year. It is a good year. You said 2 players. You said 2 players.
Shaq Mason.
Don't worry about
Mason.
Don't look at who he's passed up on. When you look at other players where they passed, there's a lot of teams that have passed up on those players. But look who he got. Look who he got in the draft.
Shaq Mason and Trey Flowers from that year.
Now, does it count that Jordan Richards, who he got in the 2nd round, drafted, got released, still playing in the NFL? By the way, still playing in the NFL. He's still playing for the Ravens. Even though he never had a start for the Patriots because he got released.
Super Bowl to the Eagles. He sucked.
Okay.
He is a terrible
What about
player.
Trey Flowers? Are you counting Trey Flowers as a good player?
I've said his name twice. I said Trey
Okay.
Flowers.
What about Shaq Mason?
And Shaq. Are you listening to me?
I don't know.
said
You just said two players. I just named you
Trey
3.
Flowers and
4
Shaq.
actually.
Jordan Richards was a bust.
Do you want me to continue?
Malcolm Brown was a bust.
Granted, this guy is just a long snapper, but Joe Cardona has been a long time long snapper for this team.
Azar, moderate this. We're talking about long snappers here.
They drafted him as a long snapper. That's what they drafted him for, and he's still the long snapper for the team. What do you want him to do? You draft him to be a long snapper. He's doing his job. What do you want him to be?
I tell you, they
got him in the
5th round.
5th round.
I'm not doing this with long snappers, Azar. Move this along.
All right, so
I'm just throwing out names. Plus, they also got a guy in the 7th round, Darryl Roberts, that's still playing in the NFL as well. Okay, but there's longevity. There's longevity. I just named you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in seven rounds that people are still playing in the NFL.
He hit on 2 of those players. Malcolm Brown was the replacement for Vince Wilfork and was hot trash. 11.5 sacks in 89 games. Get out with that stat. I don't want to hear Malcolm Brown.
That's not his job to rush the quarterback.
Well, he didn't stop anybody else
15
either.
Sacks.
Jordan Richards, get out of here with that.
Sure.
Why don't you throw Geno Grissom on there?
You're right, Jarvis. He only helped win a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Oh, yeah, whatever. We'll move on.
Who helped win a Super Bowl?
Malcolm Brown.
Oh, my God.
Was he on the team or was he not on the team?
Was he on the team?
Yes. Thank you very much. So, point for me. I win that argument.
So wasn't Jordan Richards.
We're moving on.
Oh my God.
2016.
Oh, here we go. Here's another beauty.
He didn't have a first round pick. He didn't have a first round in that league. Okay, Cyrus Jones sucks. He's the bust of that draft. Joe Tooney in the 3rd round. He wasn't a good pick. Great pick. You don't think? I know you're probably going to think Jacoby Brissett in the 3rd round. Nothing great, but he was a starter in this league.
He was a starter, but
okay.
I don't know.
All right. What about Malcolm Mitchell?
I have him as a good pick. I have 2016
because he tore up his knee. That's not Belichick's fault because he tore up his knee.
The hell are you talking about? You got to let me rebuttal, or you're just going to keep rambling nonsense.
No, I thought I was going first, and then you're gonna talk. Yeah, that's how this works.
You're like asking me questions here. Are you going to just go, or are you going to let me rebuttal as you go? How do you want to do this?
No, because I still have. I'm going to do what you did to me earlier. Let me finish, and then I'll continue talking, and then you can stop. Okay, right. So Malcolm Mitchell and Landon Roberts in the 6th round, not a bad player. He played 73 games for them, and Ted Karras was not a bad player for them either. I just named you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in that draft, not including Cyrus Jones because he was an awful pick.
Terrible.
That was a decent draft in 2016.
Yep. So let me interject just for briefly. So 2 drafts, 2015 and 2016. To your point, Big Meat, is that he did find good players later in the draft. You've still
not
yet
necessarily true. No, Joe Tooney was the 3rd rounder.
Yeah, but that's not okay.
He only had a 2nd and 3rd round. He didn't have a first round.
Fair, but okay. So just for the sake of argument, we're focusing on this 15th pick or 1st rounder. Just say even if it wasn't 15. I know he didn't have a 1st rounder in 2016.
Yep.
And it
didn't have a 1st or 2nd rounder in 2017.
So
yep.
So let's look at 2017 when he did again.
Wait, can I rebuttal on something here?
Go ahead, Jarvis.
Okay, I have first of all, I have 2016 down as Bill Belichick's best draft in the last 5 years. He hit on more players in that draft that I consider contributors. We just re-signed Ted Karras, right? As a guard, as a center, whatever. 6th round pick, fine. Landon Roberts, he played for us. Now he's in Miami. I even count him because he stepped up and had to replace Hightower there when he got hurt. Malcolm Mitchell, I thought would have been a great player, so I give him credit for that. I even give him credit for Brissett because he won a game. He started for the Colts and he was serviceable. Joe Tooney, highest paid free agent. 2016, you will get the least argument from me.
Good draft.
Because he hit on the most players he's ever hit on in the last 5 years, and he didn't miss on many. The big thing for me is he didn't miss on many. When you go back and look at the other draft picks that were taken, there really wasn't anything to be like, oh, that was a big miss. And to your point, didn't have a 1st round pick, so I'm not holding that against him. Mm-hmm. So I do want to hold 2017 against him, though.
Why? He had
Here's
4
why.
picks. He had 4
I'm gonna
picks.
and I'm gonna prove my point to you in one sentence. He had pick 83 with Derek Rivers. Do you know who pick 84 was? No, you don't. Don't even.
Enlighten me. Enlighten me.
Chris
Who the
Godwin.
84 is.
Chris
Okay.
Godwin.
Yeah,
do you know who
what?
picked?
You
Do
know what?
you know who went after that?
83
I'm
other
not done.
picks
I back
didn't
down
get
for you.
Godwin either. Go ahead.
Kareem Hunt and then Kenny Golladay. You're talking about 3 high-end offensive weapons that the Patriots desperately needed.
Travis, you got to admit, once
what
you
do I
get
have
into
to
the
admit?
3rd round, right, it ends up becoming a little bit of a crapshoot. There's very few players that end up becoming great players.
That all 3 of those players are at least all pro, if not, they're definitely
Travis,
all pro bowlers.
That's 3. That's 3 players after round 3 out of hundreds of players.
John,
you can't knock on Belichick to say, oh, he missed that guy. Now, if he misses a whole bunch of guys in the first round,
and 85, he had 2 picks. It went. You want to know what it went? It went this suckbag named Derek Rivers, and then it went Chris Godwin, and then it went Antonio Garcia. Who's Antonio Garcia? Can you tell me who Antonio Garcia is? I don't know who Antonio Garcia is.
Way too high when it comes with an NFL draft, because typically you see 1st and 2nd rounders having long careers. Very rarely.
How are you
going to
turn around and sell to me Joe Cardona and then turn around and defend those 2 shitty picks around Kareem Hunt, Chris Godwin, and Kelly? The 4 picks,
but he had the 83rd and 85th pick as his first,
and he missed those 3 players, which all went right there. They could, like, the scouting report had to have had their names somewhere. How do you miss those 3 players?
I can't knock somebody who didn't,
because you're defending him. Of course, you can't knock him.
No, because if they were so great, why didn't they go in the 1st or 2nd round? Why didn't other teams see him? Why didn't who drafted him? It was the Buccaneers, right? Who just stayed with the Buccaneers since then. Why did the Buccaneers draft him in the 2nd or 1st round?
I don't know why the Patriots drafted Sony Michel in the 1st round. I can't wait to get to that one. Clearly, their talent evaluator screwed up.
That's next.
I can't wait.
Well, let's move on to the next one. So, because 2018, not a great one, because Isaiah Wynn is not a bad first round.
For the record, pick. Belichick did hit on Dietrich Wise in the 4th round of 2017. 4 draft picks, he hit on one of them. The 4th round.
Yes. So that was the one guy. I agree. I highlighted him, and he was pretty good that year too.
I'm giving credit where it's deserved.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't knock him for.
But I can knock him for missing those 3 players, 2 picks, and he had those 3 players there, and he missed.
Look, that's you can sit there and say, "Oh, he missed that one." A lot of other people, but you can't say, he had a shitty job, because he could say he missed a shitty job. Like, oh, they missed
Antonio
it. So did a lot of other guys.
All right, go to 2018.
So, 2018, Isaiah Wynn, 1st round. He had the 23rd overall pick.
I'm giving him credit for him. I will say that he hit that pick.
He's good, right? So I know Sony Michel, right? Don't throw up in your mouth, right? But Sony Michel,
terrible.
I know.
I'm going to murder you if you go on it.
It's hard to defend it.
Don't do it.
Listen, you know how much of a hater of Sony Michel I am, but he did have some productive games, right?
And when they needed a motivated Trent Brown who was hungry. All right.
I know the year they won the Super Bowl, and he had a great playoffs because he was running behind
a monster,
a great offensive line, Devlin, Gronk, right? There were 2 great blockers.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but maybe at the time he just thought like, hey, I don't want to get this fancy, shifty running back. I just want a north and south guy who's probably not going to fumble a whole heck of a lot, and I'm going to build, I'm open up enough holes for him to just run through them. Maybe that's just what he was thinking. It worked for him because he won the Super Bowl with him. Period. Now, would I've liked to have Nick Chubb? Absolutely. I think it would have been better. I think he kind of missed out on some of those, and he ended up with Sony Michel. I can't argue that fact. The fact that he went and got Duke Dawson in the 2nd round, that's a big miss. That's 2nd round. You're supposed to get an impact player, and you got Duke Dawson there, and it's a terrible pick. 5th round, Jawan Bentley, not a bad linebacker pick there. Yeah, he's still playing on the team, man. He's still. I mean, that's what you got to expect.
He's gotten worse. Draft. He has gotten worse. He had one. He flashed as a rookie. He got hurt, and then he's gotten worse.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying. In my opinion, with the draft, it's like you need those 1st rounders and 2nd rounders to step up and be stars for you, and then the rest you're just hoping for longevity. You're hoping for guys to come in,
but so far
replace the guys that you
hit on
lose.
those guys. And he hasn't. That's the thing. So we have Joe Tooney is still the highest pick he's made in the third round. That was a good pick until Isaiah Wynn, and they're both offensive linemen. So we have 0 skill players, 0 defensive players in the first 3 rounds that were taken that have contributed to the team, and we're now on our 4th draft.
All right, thank you, Jarvis, for bringing that. That's the point where I wanted to take this art discussion. But keep going, big. I want you guys to keep going.
Good, we got 2 more years.
Yeah,
2 more years.
2 more years.
2019.
I don't even have to rebuttal 2018 because all I have to say in 2018 is Calvin Ridley, Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, DJ Chark, and Mark Andrews.
They missed a lot of guys. They missed a lot of guys.
Oh, wait a second. 2017, I also missed Dalvin Cook, Dalvin Tomlinson, Buda Baker, Juju Smith-Schuster, Alvin Kamara, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Shaquille Griffin, Kenny Golladay, Jonnu Smith, James Conner, George Kittle, Matt Milano, and Chris Carson. All passed.
You sounded very much like you did sound like Felger right there when you were just rattling off those names. You really do have the Felger down pat when you speak.
Listen, this is what his defense. He's lost all his steam. He knows that this draft.
I did not. No. I'm just getting started. Listen,
all right, get to that.
I did this research myself, you bastard.
First of all, you're naming players that he didn't draft, right? I don't care. I don't like those guys. Yeah, it sucks. A lot of teams miss those guys, but I'm focused on the guys that he did bring in that made contributions to the team.
Right. And there was so few of them. I have to talk about these other guys
because he never had a high first round. Pick.
I don't want a high first round pick. Everybody
mid first round draft pick. He hasn't had a mid first round draft pick. Everybody I
just named was after they picked twice.
But you can't look at that. That's kind of a crapshoot. Those are teams just coming in. Oh yeah, I'll take them, and they end up being
bullshit. He looked at Calvin Ridley and said, "Dime a dozen." He looked at Lamar Jackson. You have to.
That's a Felger take. That's a Felger take. You can't look at it. It's just it's.
Do you think somebody did a good job, and are you willing to criticize your own hometown? I'm willing to criticize Belichick because the motherfucker is ignorant, and he won't communicate with the fans. He won't open up and take criticism. I don't agree.
So he didn't win enough championships for you? Is that what you're mad about?
Has nothing to do with it. I don't deserve as a
Did you want 10 championships? Did you want him to go undefeated in the Super Bowl?
I just want him to be reasonable. He's not reasonable. You got honks like you that kiss his ass and Belichick we trust, and he's been sucking Brady's dick for 20 years, winning those championships, and now all of a sudden we can't ask him a question about why did you sign Cam Newton again? Why didn't you draft this kid?
I feel like I'm being fair. I'm willing to knock him on a lot of these
fair
picks.
At all.
No. I've knocked him on a lot of these picks. Look, we'll move on to 2019. N'Keal Harry. What do you want me to say about that? He sucks.
Bust.
Yeah.
They took a 32nd first round pick, N'Keal Harry. Everybody was all excited for him, and they whiffed on a lot of better receivers than N'Keal Harry. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, but
I can't defend that. I cannot defend that. But again, 32nd last pick in the round.
John, here's my problem with N'Keal Harry is clearly they were looking at wide receiver with the first overall pick. And Deebo Samuel went, Terry McLaurin went, A.J. Brown went, McCole Hardman went, DK Metcalf went, and Miles Sanders. But if you're looking at offensive weaponry, it was loaded in the end of the first round and second round. Loaded. And they took N'Keal Harry and Joejuan Williams.
Yeah, it was a bad draft. That was a bad draft. Granted, they did get Chase Winovich and they got Damian Harris in the third. So again, you want to knock them for the first couple of rounds. You got to give them credit for the third round. You have to. And you know what? And I know what you're going to say next. You're going to be like, oh, punter. Look, Jake Bailey is probably the best punter in the league.
I was going to say that I didn't give.
He's the best punter in the league, and they got him in the 5th.
That's fine. He's a punter. So your punter and your long snapper don't make your argument
round.
Here.
So who cares?
The problem I have is Winovich keeps getting his playing time taken away.
But how come it's like, 5th round? Who cares? But when other guys went in the 5th round who ended up becoming Pro Bowl players are like, look at those guys. How come he didn't get those guys?
Nobody said that about the 5th round. You're taking my second round point and adding it to the 5th round, which is not
third round. When did Godwin go? When did Godwin go?
Godwin was the 3rd round.
3rd round, right.
Yep. My point is the 5th round.
Not the 5th.
Some of those guys that you mentioned went in the 5th.
Only George Kittle.
Some of those guys you mentioned.
George Kittle went in the 5th. And you love George Kittle.
I love George Kittle.
All right, so back off. They could have had him and Mark Andrews.
All right. So just to clarify me, I'm just saying if you're going to draft a kicker or a punter or your long snapper, if it's in the 5th round, God bless you. I don't care. I just want in the early rounds. Let's make something happen. So if you
Okay.
hit on your kicker, I don't care
Yeah.
if it's in the fifth round, whatever.
And to rebut that, they drafted Bailey when Jake Allen should have been the MVP of the Super Bowl against the Rams. Like, that's how good he was as a punter. And we drafted a punter. We didn't need a punter. We had a punter who just won us a Super Bowl by pinning the Rams back every single time he kicked the ball. We didn't need it. Belichick drafted a punter in the fifth round.
I think Edelman might disagree with you on the true MVP of that game, because you're not going to give an MVP to a punter. I don't care how good of a game he had.
But so, I'm saying that we had a Super Bowl dominant punter and we drafted another one, and and Bailey was on my list.
Oh, so what? Who cares if you drafted him? Maybe he loved him so much, and look, he's proven everybody wrong. He's the best punter in the league.
But he's clearly not drafting for need.
He's drafting for the best available players. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, that was my point.
That's my point.
The fifth round. Who cares? Like I like this guy. Take him. I don't care. It's the fifth round. Don't do anything stupid. If you apply that
same logic to the higher rounds, you're the
I don't know. Jarvis is the one saying, "Oh, why'd you get a punter? Like, why'd you need a punter? Because maybe he liked the punter." Like, it's like you can't knock him for that.
Let's not get stuck in the weeds. Let's go to 2020, and so we can kind of just bring it back, because this
2020 is last year. It's a tough thing to try to gauge. So far, nothing great, right? I'm going down the list here. Michael Onwenu is the best pick in the entire draft. I'm sorry if they got him in the 6th round, guys. I know he doesn't count, so I got to go with he didn't have a 1st round pick. They didn't have a 1st round pick.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true. They traded it. That's not true. They had a 1st round pick. They traded it to the Chargers, and he took Kenneth Murray. Okay, so no. You do not get away with this one. They traded out of the 1st round. Out of the 1st round.
Okay, they tried, because maybe they just didn't like anybody there, and they wanted to go deeper. They wanted to get more picks throughout the draft. It was a year where they lost Brady. They were losing Brady. They needed a retool. They needed to get a lot of younger guys. I don't want to sit here and talk. I don't want to sound like Antifa boy, right? They've got all these Division III guys, and they're all great players. But it's still too early to tell how these guys. So far, nothing's great. I don't think Kyle Duggar is going to end up becoming anything. I don't think any of these guys are going to be anything special.
Duggar's on my list as a hit. Duggar played and contributed. I'm even giving Bill the benefit of the doubt on that one. Duggar, Onwenu, Uche, and Jennings even maybe, because like you said, I don't really know yet. But here's what I do know. Asiasi and Keene, the 91st and 101st pick in the 3rd round, because he was loaded with 3rd round picks. You can scratch them out and replace them with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith for $100 million, because they suck so bad that they had to go out and sign those two. So those 2 picks were a bust.
It was a waste.
Hey, it was a waste. I got another 5th round pick for you. It's a kicker. Guess what? They already cut him. So he sucked, right?
The anti-Semite. So
right. So now you got Onwenu. Onwenu was a good pick. You tell me who the rest of these bums are.
Yeah, there are a lot of bums on this list, but it's 1 year. I don't know what they're going to do.
In the last 6 years, Belichick has hit on 6 defensive players, 1 D-back, 3 linebackers, 3 edge guys. On offense, he hit on 8 players, but 5 of them were O-linemen. Not a single skill player. And I'm giving the D-back is Kyle Duggar, by the way, and we don't even know. So now you got zero.
You're not going to get an argument from me on skill players. Belichick cannot draft
in
skill
6
players.
years. He has had 0 skill players.
But you got to admit, he hits on all the other players. He doesn't hit on skill players.
I can't say all the other players. He's got no interior.
Not all the other players, but a lot of the other
Brown.
players.
I'm not giving you Malcolm Brown.
So
3 edge players, right? So because I don't know Jennings and Uche. One of them, they're like Winovich. They're kind of these hybrid edge rushers, outside linebackers. So like I'm just calling them edge guys, right? So they have
I look at
3
games,
inside linebackers, 3 edge guys.
If you're still playing in the NFL years later, then you hit on them. They're like you've succeeded, because that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. You can't expect. Listen, Jarvis, you can't expect all pro guys every time you draft, like go through if you're hitting on 3 or 4 out of your entire draft, and maybe 1 or 2 of them turn out to be
Willie
all pros,
Snead is still in the NFL.
That's a good draft. That's a good draft. My point is throughout the whole thing, because Azar started this off by saying, do you trust him where he's picking 15th, whether he trades down or up or whatever, he stays at 15th? Do you trust him? Well, here's the deal. Based on his history, he hasn't had a pick as high as 15th since. I have to go back to. Well, I don't have the numbers prior to 2010, but he hasn't done in the last 10 years. he hasn't had a pick as high as he had 17th pick in 2011 with Nate Solder, who was a very good offensive lineman a good tackle for him, right? So when he picks high, you could go back 20 years ago with Richard Seymour when he took him, I think, 6th overall. When he's picking high up in the draft, in the very few years that he's been able to do that, I mean, you could even say Chandler Jones at 21 back in 2012.
Which
Dante Hightower as well.
Those are defensemen. Those are all defensive.
No, I don't care. I don't care about whether it's a defensive player, offensive player, whatever it is. He's hitting on those players. Granted, if he goes out on the 15th pick and he drafts a wide receiver or a running back, maybe I could sit there and say, hey, those are skilled players, and he's probably going to whiff again on those because he has a history of doing that. But if he goes out and gets Parsons or somebody like that, are you going to feel worried about that? I know, Jarvis, you like the guy, but you're not going to be nervous based on what you know Belichick's history is on drafting those players. He's had success drafting that high on those type of players.
So I don't want to go too far into this because it'll take my point away from next week. Is why I've now relegated myself. My take on the draft is going to be stay at 15 and pick Parsons. Don't chase a quarterback. Don't trade up and give out assets. Take the pick at 15. Don't do anything because it's nothing that they can acquire is going to pan out for them. And I'll give the rest of my draft takes next week because I got a lot of them, but that's
and Jarvis, that's a perfect segue because that's exactly kind of after reviewing what Jarvis sent for us to review. It looks to me where Belichick's strength is. He's really good at picking up defensive linemen, offensive linemen. They've done just a good job. That's where they've been hitting.
Yeah, but you know, when you started this conversation, when you do this debate, Azar, it wasn't about skilled players. It was just draft. It's like
exactly
in the draft.
Yeah.
That's all
So
it was.
his draft,
you got to
draft.
base it off of that.
But when I'm looking at it,
sucks at drafting.
Your faith. It was really good. The theme is, I am like Jarvis, and you kind of hinted to it, Big Meat, and you're kind of admitting it. I don't have faith if you tell Belichick if it's a 15th pick to find us a quarterback or a skill player. I don't have any faith. To me, it's like they're not going to win. They're not going to land it. You have a better chance of them hitting them in the 2nd or 3rd round, maybe even 4th round of getting a skill player. When Belichick tries to do a skill player in the early rounds, it seems like that's not his wheelhouse. And when all these experts are saying, oh, they should draft up I'm like, don't do anything. I'm with Jarvis. Like, just do what your strength is. Don't mess this up and take this great opportunity in the 15th pick and go chasing a quarterback. I don't think that they're going to screw it up, John. That's my point. He has no track record.
But again, he's not had a pick this high in a long, long time. Probably in 2000 since 2000 what was his pick? No, I think they lost that pick in 2008. They had the pick where they had the Raiders.
Solder, the last one was Solder at 17. That was in the teens.
Was that the Raiders pick? Right? Because they lost who the heck did they traded away and they ended up getting the Raiders 1st round pick, and that was the one year the Raiders actually were pretty decent. I think they went 8-8 or 9-7. Every other year they were like 4-12, and the one year that they had their 1st round pick they actually did all right. That's why they got 17th pick. But that was the highest based on what the Raiders did, not what
but Solder's not a skilled player though. He's not a skilled player.
Gerard Mayo was the 10th overall pick. Right, and then you had Solder at 17.
That was 2008, right? That was the no. Wait a minute. What year was that?
Mayo was 08.
How'd they get the 10th pick on that? Was that the Raiders pick that they got? I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's been a while, right? And granted, not a skilled player, but to me, it's like I'm not looking for Belichick to draft a skilled player in the 1st round. If he does, I'd be happy. And
well, you're asking him to get Mac Jones. You're saying get Mac Jones, get this guy.
I like Mac Jones.
I know, but
I like Mac Jones.
But that's the point. Is like everybody's
I'm going to reserve my quarterback take for next week. I'm not going to comment on Mac.
But
Jones
that's fine. This was just a fun exercise.
But
Belichick the GM is very iffy. He's
I want to give you
not
some
as bad
stats.
as you guys claim he has been.
Let me give you some closing stats. Since 2015, he has drafted a full football team, 53 players. He's drafted since 2015. Okay, he's had 53 draft picks. He's hit 8 offensive players and 6 defensive players. He can't even field a team with the people that he's drafted. On top of that, he's drafted 21 players from Alabama, Arkansas, Michigan, UCLA, NC State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Stanford. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those 8 schools combined for almost half of his draft picks.
Wait a minute. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares what schools they went to?
Because I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's my turn to make my closing argument. Because he has connections at those schools.
Are we going 3 hours?
He has connections at those schools.
No.
No. He has connections at those schools. He's taken the players that he gets word from. He ignores his draft board. He ends up with shitty draft picks because he goes to the people that he, like at Bama, we all know he's connected down there. At Arkansas, there was Shiano, right? He had a guy. He had Michigan. He has Harbaugh that he listens to. He's definitely got somebody at Georgia. So on and so forth. And he's got these people that he just, it's on record that he's overruled the draft board for draft picks. And what I'm saying is if Belichick gets removed from the authority to do that and they follow the team and Belichick can weigh in on the strategy of the draft. Let's say this guy is our ratings, just whatever. Fine. I think he's talented in identifying in figuring out what he needs. But I think he's gotten lazy in the last 5 years. I think he's gotten lazy and complacent and he's just like, kind of feeding and reading his own bullshit where he's like, I can't miss, I'm infallible, blah, 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 coach anyone up. And he's had horrendous draft picks. I'm telling you, 5 offensive linemen, 3 edge guys, 3 linebackers, and 1 defensive back.
That's I have what he's more. Drafted. I have close to 19 players that are still playing.
Yeah, but you were counting shitty players that suck.
No, I was not counting shitty players.
You counted Jordan Richards.
He's still playing in the league. He's still playing in the league.
And he still sucks.
He's still playing in the league. It doesn't matter. He's playing in the league. He's good enough to be on somebody's team. You just made the point earlier where it's like, oh, they had 52 picks. 53. And they can't even give 53 picks.
Can't field a team.
Tell me one.
Can't field a team.
Tell me one coach or general manager making these picks that have hit enough in the last 5 years to field a team of 52 picks. I mean, if you could tell me one guy that did that, let's fire Bill Belichick now and hire that guy.
I could tell you that I bet Sean Payton did. I bet John Harbaugh over 52 Baltimore.
Good players drafted in the last 5 or 6 years. Is that what you're saying?
I would say
52.
I would say Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New Orleans.
Not a chance.
The Rams.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. You have a team full of guys that you're just trying to fill in the guys who are either retiring or they're too expensive to re-sign, or guys who get hurt, or you're just out with the old and in with the new. And that's the job. That's the point of the draft. That's why you're drafting younger guys so you can actually fit it within the cap. You're not going to the draft expecting to draft 7 all-pro guys. It doesn't happen. It's never happened. It's never happened.
I didn't say 7 all-pro guys. I said guys that don't suck.
I already named you a bunch of players that don't suck. They're still playing in the NFL.
You named me a bunch of players that suck.
Just because they play in the NFL doesn't mean it benefited the Patriots. It's just weird logic. They got picked up by somebody else, and that means they're a good pick. I don't get that logic.
Well, if they cut them for whatever reason, they're still good players. Yeah, granted, they don't play for the Patriots.
They're not good players.
So you can eliminate those out of my argument. I ended up having those as kind of like a iffy pick or whatever, but just fine. But Onwenu is a good player.
But he's on my list.
Chase Winovich, Damian Harris.
On my list.
I say Jake Bailey's a great punter.
On my list.
Best punter in the league.
Name somebody that's not on my list.
Isaiah Wynn, Sony Michel, Jawan Bentley,
no Sony Michel,
Wise, Joe Tooney, Jacoby Brissett, Malcolm Mitchell, Orlando Roberts, Ted Karras, Malcolm Brown, Trey Flowers, Shaq Mason, Joe Cardona. I just named off like 20 guys. That's 20 guys. That's not as bad as you guys think. Look, he's not. It hasn't been great. I'm not saying he's been great. I'm just saying he's not as bad or as horrendous or awful as you guys are saying.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. The names you just threw at me were terrible.
Come on,
like fillers. The ones that we did.
You're downplaying that again.
No. Travis. We agreed on Duggar, Onwenu, Winovich, Harris, Bailey, Wise, Bentley.
I didn't even mention Duggar.
I did. I
didn't even mention Duggar in my list of players. So I got 21 players.
It's 14. It's 14, and I'm not willing to negotiate any more than that because you threw in the fucking long snapper.
All right. So I'm gonna rein it in just for the sake of time because and people, if you're listening to the podcast, you can tell next week is gonna be heated. It's going to be a heated podcast.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as heated. I think
I think so.
I
think
think
we'll be
Meat
on
will
the
come to his senses by then.
I think we'll be more on the same page now that Felger gets to kind of calm down a little bit.
Oh,
Next
what
week.
an
I don't know. He got you riled up. He got Meat riled up. So I'm going to leave with my personal.
It's all for the podcast, Aza.
Yeah.
Don't you know that? It's all for the. It's all for the readings.
Meat's gonna have like 2 whiskeys in him before he starts because he wants to be ready to go. My only take on it is there's only one person to blame for these drafts, and I side with Jarvis. And there's only one person I'm gonna blame. I'm blaming Linda. This is Linda's fault.
I would agree with that.
She has corrupted Belichick. He thinks he's a playboy. He's down in Martha's Vineyard or in Nantucket, wherever the hell he hangs out, in his like Hawaiian shirts and stuff. He's not focusing. He's basically. He doesn't have
Linda's been in the picture a long time. Linda's been in the picture.
Yeah,
but not like some new floozy that he just picked up.
You know what? I say this because we were giving Brady grief when it seemed like his attention was waning. He's like, "Oh, I want to spend more time with my family. I'm not going to go to OTAs." And you look at Belichick, he's skipping certain things, he's not doing this or that, and you're like, "Huh?" He's knocking Brady for not being 100% focused, or like whatever the reason was. We still don't know the true reason why they had their rift between them. But we thought, oh, maybe it's because Brady is just moved on to other things. He's not mentally as focused. He's more focused on TB12. But I look at Belichick, and I'm starting to wonder the same thing. Maybe he's not as focused as we think he is. And maybe he's like what Jarvis is saying. This is my last take on it, is maybe he's so infatuated living the limelight with his girlfriend and just relying on his contacts to do his homework for him instead of him trusting his team. And that's what drives me crazy is, why do you have the staff if you don't even trust them? Like, what's the point of them if you're not going to trust them and overrule them on the draft day anyways? It just seems it's just crazy.
I don't know.
That's my final thought.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with any of that. I just don't understand why you would think he's not focused just because he's got Linda by his side, who he's had now for for a long time. And by the way, didn't affect him winning 3 Super Bowls in the last 10 years or 6 in the last 20.
Brady covered up what Linda was doing. The damage Linda was doing.
So that's a separate argument where you're saying, oh, it's more Brady than Belichick. All right, you know what? Like I said in previous podcasts, Brady left. The salary cap was a mess. They had all these guys that they didn't know what to do with. Cam Newton was horrible. Give him another year. See how he does this year, and then we'll revisit this.
I think that's fair. From now. I think it's fair. I don't think we're going to want to live with Cam.
But I'll tell you what, on a draft pick as high as 15, granted, it's likely he just trades down. He trades out of the first round and back into the second round. And if he does that, but I can tell you, of all the times he's drafted 15 or higher, he's never whiffed on any of those picks. And you can go back to all the other drafts dating back 20, 30 years if you want. There's a lot of whiffs in the first round in the top half of that draft. Belichick has never whiffed once on any one of them.
Yeah, and based on this exercise, I know what I want him to draft, and it isn't a skill player.
Things could be worse. You could be the Bears drafting Mitch Trubisky 2nd overall, right? And he's not even on your team anymore, right? He has a whiff like that. So until that happens, I can't knock him. I can't knock him for his drafting.
That's fair. All right, boys. So I think next week's going to be exciting. We have a lot of work to do. We got to check out the most recent mock drafts. But for those that are listening, if you're really fired up for this year's draft for the Patriots and the NFL as a whole, you got to listen in next week. I think you're going to love it. I think Jarvis is going to be coming in both barrels blazing. And I'm sure Big Meat's going to be ready to rebuttal. I'm going to have to try to keep the peace. We might need...
I wish the draft was tonight. I'm ready to go tonight. I'm ready to go. I'm already ahead of the game. I got all my notes and I got everything ready to go.
I'm just hoping we get some Barry McCockiner into to join the call next week. Maybe he can add some insight from what he's hearing on the ground. So we might have to do some reaching out to some of our sources. Maybe Antifa Boy will make a guest appearance.
I was going to say it would be a good podcast for some more guest appearances.
I would love to see. Maybe R3 make his pick, put it on record. I'd like to see Antifa Boy make his pick. But let's put it on record who they're going to pick, and then get some, from his sources. McCockiner, what's he hearing out there? So I think those will all be very important for next week's draft.
That is true.
Pre-draft show. So, all right, Jarvis. I think you gave your closing thought. We're going to wrap it up at this point. Another exciting episode. As you can tell, it's heated. And if you liked it,
Love the
review it.
fire.
Yeah. Go to Apple Podcasts, review it. We're still on YouTube. We haven't been kicked off yet, and SoundCloud. Go to any of those and give us your thoughts and spread the word. Let everybody know if you have friends that are into football, tell them you got to listen to this podcast for next week's show. They won't be disappointed. All right, Big Meat, Jarvis, thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
See ya.
Good night.